Devasana on the 10th of June, 1979. All the Buddhas attain enlightenment and attain to the true realization of the truth and Dhamma, which is found within this world. All of them attain to the same kind of penetration and realization, and their teaching was of the same nature. None of them were unethical, and they did not teach Dhamma in an aberrant and perverse manner, like the Buddhist followers of today. They are indecorous and ostentatious, trying to outdo the Lord Buddha. There are many of this kind, despite the fact that the way and the ideal are still extant, but they just don't want to follow it. This is because they simply want to be famous and distinguished. If one follows the principles of the Sasana, then one will be free of errors, flawless and impeccable. Whether one is a bhikkhu or a lay person, one will be endowed with sila and Dhamma. If one just practices following the principles of the Sasana that one has faith in, then how can one ever get into trouble? The reason for division and breaking up into the various sects is the conduct that goes against the Dhamma and the Vinaya, crushing and trampling on the Dhamma and Vinaya, which are the truth, thus replacing the Sasana of the Lord Buddha with the Kilesas, by thinking that this is the proper and correct way of doing things. If they accord with one's preferences and obsessions, then they must be right. These ways then keep on growing. These are the grosser kind of kilesas. Concerning the more subtle ones that are found within the heart of every one of us, including those of us practitioners who have been constantly fooled by their tricks. What are they? Hatred, anger, and aversion, and the obsessions of one's aramana that are created by one's thinking and concocting, which are influenced by the kilesas that arise within one's heart, with oneself being totally unaware of it. But we are totally engrossed and immersed in this enticement. They are all found within the heart of everyone. The Lord expounded that all of these things are harmful. Whatever is detrimental is productive of injury and damage. Love and hatred, anger and animosity, the heart's obsession for sights and sounds, smells, tastes, and touches, and the Dhammaramana that are influenced and created by the kilesas, which cause us delusion and infatuation, are all harmful. The Dhamma has already pointed this out, but we tend to be enticed and hypnotized by them constantly. If we do not fall for them and are not captivated by them, how can the heart not find any calm? We have to be vigilant and take care of our thinking and concocting, curbing the confusion and chaos of the heart, which is just the disturbances of the kilesas, which take sanya and sankhara as the instrument, thus afflicting our heart with trouble and hardship. This is something that we haven't yet seen the harm of. When the citta has not attained to calm, then it is already obvious that it is being afflicted with harm. This damage is the state of confusion and restlessness, which keeps the citta from coming to calm. The reason why the citta cannot gain calm is because of agitating and disturbing influences. There are things that oppose the citta. If the practitioner doesn't reflect on the harm in this way, then he will not be able to find anything worthwhile. The wonderful quality of the citta, which is the state of calm, will not be able to come forth. One has to constantly give thought to these things, and one has constantly to see them as harmful, and be very careful and cautious. If one is not vigilant, how can one expect to come across the magga, phala, and nibbana? If these things constantly obstruct the magga, phala, and nibbana, how can one ever realize them when every time one thinks, one's thoughts always go in the way of the kilesas? Whatever one concocts, and whatever one turns one's mind to, it is never about the truth and Dhamma, but only about the kilesas, tanha and asava. How then can one ever come across the magga, phala, and nibbana? One has to apply one's mind as a practitioner. One must not avoid doing this contemplation. The kilesas are in perpetual activity. They go in the way of sankhara and sanya. They are constantly active, going in the way of sanya. With the sight and sound, they only go through occasionally, when the external and internal ayatana come into contact. This happens intermittently from time to time. But the Dhamma ramana that arise from the contact with the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body, and which disturb and agitate oneself, are things that one ceaselessly thinks about and constantly concocts up. Whatever one concocts up, this is the work of the kilesas, not the work of Dhamma, and not the work of sati and panya. But when it is the work of panya that concocts up and contemplates these things, then it is the work of Dhamma. When sankhara entertains the thoughts of truth and Dhamma, analyzing and differentiating the element aggregates, reflecting and contemplating with wisdom, then it will go in the way of Dhamma. When it concocts up the affairs of Dhamma, then it goes in the way of Dhamma. The perception of sanya must be following the work of investigation. It is like following a line that has already been drawn out. This is the way that sanya has to follow, and then it will be in accordance with Dhamma. As it is, 95% of the time, it is the work of the kilesas, and even the remaining 5% hardly ever goes in the way of truth and Dhamma, in all the various postures. Thus, in the practice of Dhamma, one can hardly ever come across and clearly perceive the Dhamma within one's heart, such as the state of calm. This calmness is not far away, for as soon as one is capable of curbing and restraining this aramana with sati, then the state of calm will appear. Nevertheless, we are still not capable of calming our hearts and freeing them from these disturbing and agitating influences. How, then, are we going to come up with the magga, phala, and nibbana? I have expounded this to you countless times, more frequently than the kilesas have swarmed over your heart. By now you should be able to bear it in mind and take it up for contemplation and investigation. The work of overcoming and uprooting the kilesas is a Herculean task. There is nothing more tenacious than the kilesas, and I myself have already experienced this. I really had to put all of my life into it. Looking back at the way I practiced, I cannot help but having apprehension at the way I struggle, for now I would not be able to put forth that kind of effort.